Regarding talking about immigration and this new model that Mr. Roberge wants to put in place with this bill, what are your expectations for tomorrow with this upcoming bill? With this new model inspired by interculturalism?
Well, it's a little bit, I mean, I would say funny, but it's not. It's a little bit contradictory from Minister Roberge, who was very much critiqued last session for cutting in francisation in French courses. And we just saw yesterday how many funding for supporting integration into schools were cut as well. So, I mean, Minister Roberge is talking about the contract between the newcomers and the people that are just coming into Quebec and the state. However, what we're really seeing is that there is only one side to that contract. Minister Roberge is saying, well, you'll have to follow A, B, C, D. However, on my side, I might just cut my francisation class. I might just cut the funding to integration. So I'm really much calling Mr. Roberge to respect his own laws. Bill 96 is Minister Roberge's laws, and he enacted in this bill the very right to receive French classes. However, he's cutting within his own engagement. So I'm calling him for a real assessment as to what he's promising, what he's asking, and what he's delivering. And I'll be very much open to see what he has to propose tomorrow. But I believe actions means more than words. And Minister Roberge, in the terms of words, is highly failing these days.
And Mr. Grandmont, regarding electric vehicles, what Radio-Canada is reporting is that Minister Charette is basically thinking about postponing the objective of 2035 because of the new context with Donald Trump, who has scrapped the decree for electric vehicles in the U.S. It has a direct consequence to Quebec as a matter of sales of those vehicles. So what should we do with that?
I think we should not abandon our objective of banning the sale of electric cars by 2035. 43% of our greenhouse gas emissions comes from transport, so we have to act and maintain our objectives. Even if Donald Trump decided to do the contrary, so. Yeah, we should maintain our objective. I asked Minister Charette to not quit about this issue, and I want to remind that electric cars are not the only tool we have to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. We have to invest a lot in public transit. So. As I said earlier, I asked Minister Guilbeault to be very strong in face of the federal government. We need this $1.5 billion to construct our tramway, our public transit that is very necessary here in Quebec. So that's the point. We should not abandon our objective, even if Donald Trump decided to do the contrary.
Because we would look at the Quebec government at every Trump's decision if finally, for example, Mr. Charette is thinking about postponing this objective of not selling any more gas vehicles, only electric vehicles, we would be giving the image of giving up all the time?
Yeah, well, the work of, we shouldn't, I think at the end of the CAC mandate, we would look at the results of this Minister of Environment Minister, and I think comment ça, un bilan?
Yeah.
The track record of Minister Charette is not so good. He's always doing things like supporting the third lane between Quebec and Lévis.
Yeah. We should not basically give Trump the big way, and we should stop Trump. We should not basically change our objectives every time that Trump is making a decision.
No, we have to be strong. We have to be strong in front of that kind of person. He's negotiating in the hardest way possible. We have to be strong in our way too. So we will not abandon, quit our objectives. That's the basic with that kind of person, I think.
I just want to clarify, Mr. Grandmont, given the context in the U.S., though, how exactly can Quebec attain the goal, keep the goal at 2035, what exactly do you think they can do to make sure that they can actually ban gas-powered vehicles by 2035?
Well, the car market is bigger than only our relationship between Quebec and United States. There are cars Korean cars, Japanese cars, European cars. We have to explore other markets, and I refuse to let I refuse to let the government say that the only way to reduce our transport greenhouse gas emissions, that the only tool that we have is on individual cars. We have to invest a lot in public transit. That's another way to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions.
Just quickly, Monsieur Cliche-Rivard, on the homelessness crisis right now in Montreal, in Quebec in general, but we heard from Madame Plante earlier this week. So whose fault is it right now that people can't find the resources they need?
Well, obviously, Minister Carman was stating for people to play in team. However, I feel every single player of the team is there, but he's not. And that's a main problem. Quebec funding is not to level. I mean, we're facing a humanitarian crisis in Montreal. Anybody who lives in Montreal, who takes the metro, who walks in our neighborhoods knows that we're facing a crisis that we never saw. And this is true for Montreal. It's also true for Quebec. It's also true for many cities within the country. But it is very dramatic in Montreal. And the resources that we're having, I visited all of them in the last fall. They are out of breath. They are at the very single limit of what they can do with the funding they have, with the spaces they have. And even when they're asked to do more, they're trying, but they're very limited. So I'm asking Minister Carman to inject new funding. We need to make sure that tomorrow less and less people are sleeping on the streets. However, I'm calling for the CIUS and the Santé Publique to take their responsibilities. It's not 100% for the NGOs and to the organization here on the ground to do 100% of the work with regards to homelessness. The Santé Publique has responsibilities. And I'm asking Mr. Carman to inject the funding to rent spaces, to put beds one next to one, and to open those dorms to make sure people are not freezing tomorrow. And it is his responsibility. He cannot just push back this to the organizations on the ground to say you have to do more. He has to do more. And when Madame Plante is saying he's not meeting those obligations, well, she's right. Valérie Plante is right. Minister Carman is not doing enough. The CAQ is not doing enough. And we're seeing this every day in Montreal and everywhere in Quebec. The situation is not getting better. Minister Carman stated it would last fall. It's not.
Is it simply a funding issue, though? Are there other ways that you want to see Minister Carman stepping up?
Well, obviously on every level. I mean, a third of the people living on the streets now have been evicted. And this is a big problematic. I'm asking for Minister Duranceau as well to do better, to protect people. People are going to face 6% of their rent increase in a couple of months. For a lot of people, that's just not possible. And they're going to have to leave their rent because they won't have the capacity to pay for it. And how is that even possible in the crisis we're living now that the minister is accepting this 6%? We should intervene. Quebecers should intervene to make sure that's not happening. We should have a social welfare check that allows to pay for that rent. That's not the case these days. People are receiving $700, $800 a month to pay a rent that's $1,600. How is that even possible? They have to be 2, 3 within the same rooms, and they are threatened to lose their rent. So I mean, in terms of prevention, we should be doing a lot more. We should be doing a lot more on the ground to make sure people are not freezing tomorrow, but we should be very much building more housing for tomorrow, and for NGOs to play their role within the reintegration into apartment. We should make sure that all those levels are very much more fulfilled.